So today we have with us Professor Ram Singh, and Sir will be delivering a lecture on the different kinds of fellowships in research. But before I invite you, Sir, to deliver your lecture, I would take this pleasure in introducing you to the participants. So Professor Ram Singh is in Department of Economics, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. He has completed his postdoctorate from Harvard University. Professor Singh was a visiting professor at Brown University, Department of Economics, Providence, USA, Commonwealth Fellow at London School of Economics, Department of Economics, London, UK, visiting Associate Professor at University of Hamburg, Institute of Law and Economics, Germany, and Erasmus Mundus Scholar at K University, Leuven, Faculty of Business and Economics, Belgium. His research interest includes contract theory, law and economics, public-private partnerships, infrastructure, property rights, law and economics in India. Professor Singh is the recipient of several prestigious fellowships and awards, to name a few: Commonwealth Fellowship in Economics, Erasmus Mundus Scholarship in Economics, Ronald Coase Fellowship in Institutional Economics, and Fulbright Senior Research Fellowship in Economics. He has co-edited Existence and Efficiency of Equilibria, When Care is Multidimensional by Routledge, and Infrastructure, Source of Growth or Bottleneck in the Handbook of the Dynamic Indian Economy. His articles have appeared in several national and international peer-reviewed journals. Thank you so much, sir, for your consent for this FDP at such a short notice. I'm really thankful to you, sir. I now request you, sir, to preside over the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nidhi, for this very generous introduction. Also, thank you for having me interact with the participants in the ongoing course. So I thank you, I thank the college, Faculty Learning Center at Ramanujan College, my colleagues from the college, and dear participants. I'm happy to be with you this afternoon to talk about fellowships, research fellowships in different disciplines. These are stressful times for all of us, and the fact that you have chosen to attend faculty development program and a session like this speaks a lot about the level of motivation you have, and also perseverance and internal resilience you have, and our society has been needed at a time like this. So it strikes me that when Newton came out with 3 laws, I'm sure all of you have read about Newton's laws in school or at a different point in time. It was a coincidence that when Newton was working to formulate, to give concrete shape to his ideas, that finally came to be known as laws, Newton's laws. So that time, his society, his country were also facing a pandemic, plague. So the point I want to make is that even in hour of crisis, it's a nightmare national level crisis we are undergoing. But the thinking must continue, research must continue, whatever is our responsibility, be it teaching, be it research, it should continue to the extent it is possible under the circumstance. And ideas, research can throw up interesting ideas that can change the science, that can change the social science, economics, political science, law at any point in time. So no effort should be wasted to the extent circumstance allow us to think, read, write. On this note, I urge you all to pay attention to what I say during next half an hour. I will speak for half an hour to tell you the important aspects of any fellowship program, any important aspects of an application for research fellowship. Since the participants are a set of a set of researchers coming from different disciplines, it's not going to be possible and desirable for me to talk about subject-specific scholarship programs. But my focus, instead of talking about subject-specific research fellowship programs, would be to talk about what will make an application, research fellowship application, strong application. I will also talk about how can you go about finding for research fellowships in your respective discipline. In this process, I will draw upon my knowledge, but more specifically, I will draw upon my experience with the research fellowships. As Nidhi mentioned in her introduction for me, I have been lucky to get several research fellowships. And during the course of application for various research fellowships, and also when the fellowships were offered and I undertook research under various research fellowships, I learned quite a deal. And I want to share my experience with you. Now, let me start by talking a little bit about research fellowships at PhD level. My focus would be on postdoctoral research fellowships because I'm assuming that some of you have already a PhD degree and will be looking for postdoctoral fellowships, postdoctoral research fellowships. And many of you may be in the process of acquiring a PhD degree soon. But some of you may not have started a PhD degree yet and may want to do PhD, and you should seriously consider doing PhD. If you want to stay in the profession of teaching, you should seriously consider a PhD. Don't think it is only a matter of only a tool, instrument for career advancement to get increments and higher pay scales. More than that, you should look at PhD to create a profile for yourself, a research profile for yourself, a public intellectual profile for yourself. I believe that everybody, each one of us has ability to create a niche area where we know in our individual capacity, we know about a subject much more than anybody else around us does. It's possible. All we need to do is to have some motivation and put in efforts consistently. We should be reading, thinking about a topic of our interest. And in the duration of 3 to 4, 5 years, you will see that if you persist with this approach, you can build a profile for yourself. You come across much more knowledgeable about a particular subject, about a particular issue than most other people. And here I'm not saying that you should have such a profile where you distinguish, you have an edge over others. I'm not saying this only to cater to our sense of ego. No, it is our duty to supplement knowledge base of our society, of our students. And we can do that exercise, that duty we can discharge if we carve out areas that have not been excelled by our colleagues in the department, in the university. So to provide complementary knowledge to the university, to students, it's important that we carve out niche areas. And these areas can be from mainstream issues, and they can also be new issues that are at the frontier of research or teaching in your respective area. So, and PhD is very helpful in all this process. So if you don't have PhD, I suggest you seriously consider doing a PhD. And when you think of doing a PhD, you should try to do a PhD with a research scholarship. In India, there are various options available to you to do PhD on a fellowship in India. UGC's CSIR, Department of Science and Technology, if you come from sciences, SERB, Science and Engineering Research Board of India. So they have various programs and various research scholarships meant for PhD students. And some of these are very generous, like say Prime Minister Research Fellowship for PhD student is a very generous fellowship. It gives you, the scholarship amount is much more than the salary you get as assistant professor at country level. And there's some sense of prestige attached to the Prime Minister Research Fellowship, research scholarship. So there are various options available, and you should explore these options by visiting UGC, CSIR, Department of Science and Technology, Science and Engineering Research Board of India. These are the places you can visit and get to know about these scholarships. So once you have a research scholarship, then your funding need is automatically taken care of. In some cases, you should also check. Some universities have a scheme that they give you if you are in a regular employment with the university, then maybe your university has scheme to give you paid leave for PhD. So that option should also be exercised, and if it is there, then you don't have to really worry about funding of a PhD. So you can exercise that option. But if you are thinking of doing PhD from abroad, again, there are various possibilities. Commonwealth Fellowship, Commonwealth Commission has fellowships, has scholarships. So for doing PhD, for funding PhDs. But most important form of scholarship for PhD is through a process that requires you to write GRE exam. Especially if you think of applying to American schools, Canadian schools, universities, and in some cases UK as well. Actually, a GRE exam is important for most scholarships, wherever you apply, mostly in North America, Europe, including Australia and New Zealand. So if you are thinking of doing PhD from abroad, you should prepare for GRE seriously. So this was specific to PhD related fellowships, scholarships. Now your strength of your application into a PhD program had several important pillars. One is your GRE score. So if you take GRE, you should prepare seriously for GRE and try to score as high as you can. It's very important. It's considered to be a signal of your ability. The other important pillar is your academic record. Third academic pillar is the letters of recommendation that you include in your application. Letters of recommendation are or can be from your teachers, from your former teachers. In some cases, if you are working on a research issue with somebody, and if your co-author collaborator happens to be an established researcher in a faculty position in a university, so that person can also write a letter of recommendation for you. Basically, a good letter of recommendation should come from someone who can claim to know you as a researcher. Set of these people are people who have taught you. They have interacted with you. They know about your aptitude. They know about your intellectual potential. So somebody who can, first, it's very important for letter writers, for you to get a good letter of recommendation, it must come from somebody who can credibly argue that I know this person well, I can talk about, I know him or her so well that I can talk about her research potential, her prospect as a teacher. So only your teachers can make such a claim about you. Your research collaborators, if you have been working with a professor, with somebody, they can make such a claim about you. In some cases, your employer, maybe the principal or in a university department, head of the department, may also make such a claim because they have opportunity to observe your teaching, to get feedback about your teaching, about other initiatives that you have taken. One other than this, there's one more option that can be created. By created, I mean that your teachers, you can't choose your teachers now. You have already been taught, and your employer is also given. But if you need more letter writers, you can think of working with somebody either on a research problem, research issue, or as a research assistant to a scholar that commands your respect. So if you offer your research assistantship, then that provides an opportunity for your mentor to observe and assess your research potential. And then the person with whom you work as a research assistant can also credibly write a good letter of recommendation, arguing why he is in a position to assess your research potential. So the first important aspect of any letter of recommendation, a good letter of recommendation, is the letter writer should be objectively in a position to assess your potential. The second important aspect is that the arguments presented in the letter should be objective. It's not good enough to say that, Nidhi is very good. Just take her in your PhD program, otherwise it will be a mistake for you. It's possible to make such a statement in a letter of recommendation, but it has to be argued. It has to be argued why Nidhi will be a good choice for the PhD program Nidhi is applying to, for instance. And this has to be, again, the argument should be based on either interactions or somebody who has seen Nidhi's work, has seen her as a student, can make such statements credibly. So it is important to substantiate contents of letter of recommendation objectively. And letter, of course, should be strong. So that's also a very important pillar of a good application. And this is something that you can try to work. It's possible for you to work to manage a good letter of recommendation. There's yet one more dimension to a good PhD application, which is called writing sample. Some universities allow you to write, some universities actually ask for a writing sample. Some Indian universities ask for a writing sample. American universities ask for writing sample, and many other universities allow you to include a writing sample as a part of your application. Now, what is a writing sample? It is not something that you write a page or two on anything of your choice. A writing sample is actually should be about your research interest, and it should be a demonstration of your ability to identify a research issue, to develop it, and to argue out research, leading to some conclusions. The conclusions don't have to be thoroughly thrashed out, but something that is based on argument. So basically, if you were to write a research paper, 3-4 page research paper, very good quality, 3-4 page research paper, this is how your writing sample should look like. So overall, PhD application is assessed on these grounds, on these pillars. So at least 3 pillars out of these 4 mentioned by me should be strong for you to stand chance at a very good university with funding. The funding assessment is also based on this criteria. So incidentally, what I said about the importance of letter of recommendation and writing sample, that applies to postdoctoral fellowships also. So let me now talk a little bit about postdoctoral fellowships. There are several agencies, international agencies, that grant postdoctoral fellowships. Nehru Fulbright Fellowship Program is one of the leading ones. Commonwealth Fellowship Program, the Commonwealth Commission has Commonwealth Fellowship Program. That is also a leading form of postdoctoral fellowships across various disciplines. Then we have, India has bilateral agreements with Government of Canada, with Australia and several other European Union countries. So where there is a provision for funding postdoctoral research. So these are some of the leading institutions that provide for funding. Most postdoctoral funding fellowships are not through these channels. Most universities have postdoctoral fellowships of their own. Most departments have. And how do those fellowships come about? The leading form, the mainstream form of a postdoctoral fellowship in the US, in UK, is that, the faculty members, professors in a university, they get research grant or research project. And in their research grant, research project, they ask for manpower, so to speak. In manpower, they ask for junior research assistants, for example. They also ask for postdoctoral positions. And once they get their project approved, research grant approved, then they get money for hosting postdoctoral fellows also. So most of postdoctoral fellowships are through this channel, which is that individual faculty members in university departments get research project, get research grant, and a component of their research project, research grant is faculty postdoctoral position. So you can say that this form of postdoctoral positions, it is specific to individual teachers, professors. Therefore, it becomes challenging how to identify such positions. You can go to Nehru Fulbright Commission and then learn everything about the postdoctoral fellowship provided by the commission. But in such a cases where the postdoctoral fellowship is part of research grant of a professor, how do you find out about such fellowships? The way to go about is that you have to look at the profile of individual departments. So you have one subject. So for your subject, you go to various universities and look for if there is an advertisement. Most departments, so if a professor advertises for postdoctoral position, they put up advertisement on their department webpage or university webpage. So at a suitable tab, you can find a suitable tab where you will get to know if there are any openings of postdoctoral positions in your subject. And you should carry out this exercise regularly at different university departments to explore possibilities. You can also write to professors asking them if they have any postdoctoral positions available to them. Now, but before you write to a professor asking about postdoctoral position, it's important for you to convey to the professor that you are interested in the research area pursued by that professor you have chosen to write to. To be able to do so, it's important that you are familiar with his or her research work. Therefore, if you have a professor in mind with whom you would like to work, it's important for you to follow his or her recent writings. And it's also generally people are tempted to write to explore possibility of getting scholarship in any area whatsoever. In my view, that's not a good idea. You should, first of all, you should have good knowledge of what issues interest you. And then you should try to find postdoctoral fellowships in the research issues that interest you, rather than first finding a research fellowship and then trying to adopt whatever is the requirement of fellowship. Such approach that where you are after postdoctoral position regardless of the subject or issue, research issues or research agenda of postdoctoral fellowship. If you take such an approach, first of all, it's less likely to succeed. Second, even if you succeed in getting fellowship, you will have a difficult time. So for research, it's very important that you are interested in research area, you have chosen to research on. So you enjoy research can be a pleasant experience, but also extremely excruciating experience if you have to do it by force. If you have to do research in an area that doesn't interest you, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. It will be painful experience, and it will also be unproductive experience. So my suggestion would be that first of all, you have done PhD, only then you are looking for postdoctoral positions. Therefore, you already have some research issues. If you want to branch out to areas other than your PhD research area, by all means do that. First educate yourself about the research areas you would like to do postdoctoral research in. Do that, do a lot of readings. Once you are sure that, identify 2-3 areas where you will be comfortable, you think you will enjoy doing research. Then you start the process for searching for postdoctoral positions. When you familiarize yourself with the different research areas, you would have already read writings of leading scholars in that area. Therefore, you would already know leading scholars, Indian leading scholars, and also international scholars who have made most important contributions in the area where you find yourself interested in. Approach those people, write to them, asking if they have any opening for postdoctoral fellowships. So not everybody will respond. Therefore, if you don't want to be disappointed, don't expect response from every person you write to. But some people will surely respond. You may be lucky, they may say that they have opening. Or even if they don't have opening, they may put you in touch with somebody else, some other professor who may have an opening. So this process of looking for postdoctoral fellowships through institutions where institutions like Nehru Fulbright Scholarship Fellowship Commission, there the process is extremely streamlined. All you look it up, you can Google it, look it up, and all information is out there. But in many cases, you have to look for it proactively, getting in touch with, exploring web page of different universities, and also writing to people. So, but in this entire process, it's very important for you to come across as a knowledgeable in areas you claim to be interested in. So when you are applying for postdoctoral fellowship, remember so people know that you are already a PhD. Therefore, expectations from you will be of much higher order than expectations from a candidate who is asking for funding for PhD. So again, whenever you write to a person, a professor, a faculty member, a researcher abroad or in India, it's a good idea for you to include your writing sample. If you have publication, then you should include your publication as a part of as an attachment to your email. But you choose your best publication. Numbers don't count as much as the quality does. At times we feel that a longer count of publication is very good. It is very good if there is a quality. But if you have to choose between 10 publications of poor quality, average quality, versus just one publication of good quality, it's better to include one publication that has quality. And it's important before you start seriously looking out for applying for postdoctoral positions, it's important for you to have a good quality published paper or good quality publishable paper. So that the person looking at the paper realizes that even though it's unpublished paper, but it has all the potential to make it to a good journal. In your respective subjects, you know what good journals are. You also have read good papers. Therefore, you have some sense of what makes a good research and what does not. So for otherwise also, but most here we are talking about postdoctoral fellowships. So the quality is going to be very important. Other component is going to be the letters of recommendation, as we discussed for research for PhD scholarships. For postdoctoral fellowships also, letters of recommendations are important. And for the difference is that for PhD applications, the letters of recommendation can come from teachers who know only who know you only as a student. They really don't have to talk about your research output. But when you apply for postdoctoral position, it's important that your letter writers, they can claim to know about your research output. This becomes especially important if you do not have publication. You are still doing PhD, you are about to submit your PhD, and you are already thinking of postdoctoral position. In that case, you may not have publication yet, and you may still want to apply. So in such a position, it's very important that letter writers can claim to know about your research output and also your research potential. Most hosts would also ask for a letter of recommendation from your research supervisor, your thesis supervisor, because your thesis supervisor is expected to know most about your research. Then your statement of SOP, statement of purpose, is also important, where you talk about what excites you about different research areas. You should prepare a 2-3 page document where you talk about research issues that excite you, that you find extremely interested in. In those 2-3 pages, 3-4 pages, you should also talk about research by whom has excited you the most, has made you think about new dimensions. You should talk about the new dimensions, new research ideas that you would like to explore as a postdoctoral fellow. Then, other important aspect for postdoctoral fellowship is that, to repeat, I said that publication is important, either at least one good quality published research paper, or at bare minimum, a very good quality paper that is not published but has all the potential to be published in a good journal. Then letters of recommendation. You would again need 3 letters of recommendation. So it's always a good idea, since you are going to be needing 3 letters of recommendation, it's a good idea for you to interact with different people about your research. Show your research to scholars from different institutions, different universities. If you are in a science department in a university, reach out to faculty in ICERs, IITs, reach out to research labs, scientists, show them your research, engage with them, try to collaborate with them, try to work with them, even if you have to work on honorary basis without any monetary gains. Because outcome would be that if you can impress those people, then you can hope to get a good letter of recommendation from them. So it's very important for you to reach out to different people and show them your research. In the process, also read about their research and try to relate your research with their research. This you should do during PhD or after PhD if you have already submitted your thesis. But all this must be done before you start seriously applying for postdoctoral positions. And again, when you write to a professor who you want to be your host during your postdoctoral fellowships, it's very important that you have overlapping research interest. Therefore, it's very important that you can relate your research agenda with the ongoing research by that professor. It's very important. Only then they will be receptive to your application. They will look at your email more seriously. And this also reminds me that it's the importance of being precise. So at times, we write a very lengthy email. We hope that a lengthy email will impress upon the reader, the person we want to impress. But people don't have time. So let's not write lengthy emails. But if you have to write lengthy email or a lengthy document, make sure that first para in your email is interesting enough that the person wants to read, your reader wants to read the next para. This logic should be applied to emails. This logic should be applied. This rule should be followed when you write statement of purpose. You should assume that your reader is not going to be interested in reading unless you make her interested in what you are writing. Therefore, whenever you write, of course, we always write to express our ideas, our research ideas, our intent. But we should always think of the reader. We should always think of reader's perspective when we are writing. Our reader should find our writing accessible and interesting. This rule, I urge you to follow this rule in all your writings, in your informal email writings, in your formal email writings. When you think of writing a newspaper article, you think of writing a research paper or a statement of project, a proposal or a project proposal, always try to follow this rule. Keep your reader not only at the back of your mind, actually at the back and front of your mind. Should be making things interesting and accessible to your reader should be your guiding principle. Relate your research. And the last piece for postdoctoral fellowship would be research agenda. In research agenda, you should put out research ideas, not research ideas that you have already worked on. Research ideas that are related to your research experience, related to maybe your PhD or some other research that you have done. But this should be new research questions, research issues that you would like to execute, carry out, do research on during postdoctoral fellowship. This document is going to be really the most important document, where you list the research issues you would like to explore. To be strategically smart, try to relate these research issues with the research agenda of your host, your potential mentor, who will be your mentor, your supervisor during postdoctoral fellowships. This also means that when you apply to different places, you should customize your application to different departments, different individuals. You can't have one document ready and then use that document to apply wherever you are applying. If you want to prepare only one document, that document has to be general document, and general document will not be very helpful. Your core, your research idea, I am not asking you to choose different research areas when you write to different people. Your research areas could be same, 2-3 research areas, but you should acquire art and knowledge to relate those research areas to this ongoing research undertaken by people who you are looking to be associated with. That means that every single department you apply to, prepare a customized application specifically meant for a specific professor, a specific department. That way you will be enhancing strength of your application. Then you should list in your research agenda, you should list importance of the research issues, questions you have identified. You should discuss how your research issues you have identified, how they are going to fill the gap in the existing state of knowledge in your subject. They should create value addition. There should be research issues which can provide additional insight, additional knowledge on the subject's issues you have talking about. You should then discuss a little bit about the methodology you would like to adopt. The methodology component doesn't have to be exhaustive, because part of postdoctoral fellowship is to use this as an opportunity to learn from your mentor. Therefore, your reader, your host, potential host won't expect you to have exhaustive methodology, but you should have at least some clear sense of how you intend to start research on research issues you have identified. So these are some of the important features. So my suggestion is, regardless of your discipline, you think of putting these documents together before you start applying for postdoctoral positions. Any postdoctoral position will have components. It will start from some email communication, unless it is with an institutional funding agency. So it will start with an email. So email itself should convey your research interest a little bit. It should include some writing sample, a completed paper. It should have other documents I have talked about. But it takes time to prepare all these documents. It takes time to have good quality publication. That means that you should, if you are thinking of postdoctoral fellowship, you should start working on these documents as soon as you can. And I remind you that the quality is going to be more important than quantity of your publication, your research output.